And now, Stage 23 and Walt Disney Imagineering are pleased to present Radiator Springs Reality, Imagineering Cars Land for Disney California Adventure. Please welcome your host, Dave Fisher, as well as Imagineers Kathy Mangum, Jennifer Mock, and Kevin Rafferty. And from Pixar Animation Studios and Imagineers 2, Roger Gould and John Lasseter.
Go ahead and sit down. Welcome to Radiator Springs Reality, everyone. My name is Dave Fisher, and my job here is to herd a bunch of cats. Because if I'm not up here, these guys are going to talk until about 5:30 this afternoon. As much as you love it, we have a couple more presentations in Stage 23 today. So, but for the next hour, you're going to hear a lot about Radiator Springs Racers and the entire Cars Land. And by the way, I hope you've been down to the Walt Disney Parks and Resorts exhibit, because if you're there, you can go to Mickey's of Glendale and you can get your own Cars Land shirt. How about that? Exclusive this weekend only. So anyway, you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to them. So let's get started with Cars Land. And John, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I have the coolest hard hat in the history of construction. This hard hat was personally painted for me by Chip Foose, so it's completely got Ramon's paint job. And this lives in Kathy's office.
Under lock and key.
Under lock and key. Because this is very special. There you go.
Thank you.
You can take it back to your office.
All right.
Cars Land really, Cars Land is the origins of Cars Land really comes from, you know, the idea of California Adventure, you know, when we needed to do something to it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when it was not up to the level, for my mind, of a Disney park. It didn't have quite the theming and all that in it that it should have had. And when I was made Chief Creative Officer, and then also Bob Iger asked me to step in as Principal Creative Advisor for Walt Disney Imagineering, it was one of the first things, because being a Jungle Cruise skipper, growing up in Whittier, California, coming here all the time, Disneyland is just such an important part of my life, and it's so important, I think, for all of us. And I really felt that we needed to do something with California Adventure. I mean, I love the idea of another park there, but it needs to have a sense of place that like a Disney park has. You know, when you walk through that tunnel underneath the train station, you are transported. You know, you walk through the Adventureland sign past the Tiki Room, you are transported to another place in time. Through the castle, you're transported. You know, and that's what's so special, and I think part of why we all love just to be at Disneyland, you know. And so that was really the philosophy of coming in for all of us, coming into what are we going to do, you know, with this park. We need to bring that back to translate.
In case you didn't know, sorry, John.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking. And that's John Lasseter from, they surprised me with naming this character. I did one line in Cars 2 with this character, and they've named it John Lasseter. So that's my character. And so we wanted to take a look at this, and you know, one of the things that California has is this incredible car culture. And it's one of the inspirations that I had in my life, excuse me, in thinking about wanting to do something with cars as characters, because I grew up in Southern California, and I love cars. I love every aspect of cars. This is Roger, excuse me, I found this picture of me, my brother, my sister in the back of our 62. That's me with my Casper. Is the origin. Is the origins of Woody. The pull string came from my Casper. I still have it. And And so this is a back of our, when we got our brand new 62 Impala station wagon. My father was a parts manager at a Chevrolet dealership, and so I grew up in the car dealerships and in cars. I just love cars and everything about cars, and so that's when we started creating this idea of cars being alive and there's no humans, and we came up with the movie Cars. And so while we were working on this, we really started in. I was finishing up Cars when Disney bought Pixar, and I became Chief Creative Officer. And we started talking about California Adventure, and it really led to, we got this movie, we got this land, this whole new park that is California based, and it's like car culture and everything. It seems to make perfect sense to kind of to have something here, and so that's what really started the dialogue with kind of getting, is there something we could do with cars in this land?
So what we're going to do now is, before there was Cars Land, there was another idea that Imagineering had been working on that was sort of a combination of the car culture of California and this new movie that Pixar Animation Studios was working on. And to tell you about this, we have our concept writer, senior concept writer from Imagineering, Kevin Rafferty.
Thank you, everybody. So, just like John, I'm a huge car nut, and when we started talking about expanding California Adventure, I actually bought an old 1956 Corvette at the time to restore it, and I was thinking about how great it would be to have a land designed around cars, because as John said, it's so much part of the California car culture with the clubs and all the designs that go on here. And John was working on the movie Cars about that time. It was late 2005, 2006. And so it all really began as Carland. And if you look at the poster of opening day California Adventure, you see that little 57 Corvette there, and it just seemed like a missing part that really needed to be kind of put in there. And I started doing a lot of research about that and found this really cool first annual Car Club Day and Autocade at Disneyland in 1959. I actually think they only did that for one day because it attracted like James Dean guys with cigarettes rolled up in their t-shirts and stuff. And so, but there's a lot of interest in the car culture. And so it all began with like a cruise street. The time period is like 1955 to 1965, when cars became less of a means of transportation, more of a form of personal expression and sock hops and road trips and all that. And at the same time, the gentleman, my colleague who I worked on Toy Story Midway Mania together with John and Roger as well, Robert Coltrane, and I started taking a look at what this Carland would look like, and we flew up to Pixar to see where John was in the film and just totally fell in love with it. And you can see where Ornament Valley kind of took place on Cruise Street, and we started cooking up the idea for Radiator Springs Racers. That's a really early concept sketch for that. And down at the other end of the street, we had Marty's Drive-In, car hop service. And we had an attraction called Road Trip USA, where it started off kind of in California with California Crazy, and you went across the country and you saw all the icons you did when you were a kid in your 62 wagon going across country on a road trip. And it kind of ended with a Nature's Wonderland type cavern at the end. And remember that, because that may surface a little bit later here, in a car wash where guests could squirt other kids going through and stuff. And then John actually took a look at that and said, you know what, maybe we should think about, more characters.
Well, one of the things that I had a very strong opinion about, and I don't have many strong opinions.
No.
But I did have a strong opinion about this one thing, and that is the California Adventure completely lacked Disney characters. And I didn't understand that. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand building a Disney park without Disney characters. It just didn't make sense to me, and so that's one of the, and so in the renovation of California Adventure, the remodel, it's like, as you notice, the Sun wheel became the Mickey wheel, the orange peel was unpeeled, and it became the band concert, and now we just have the Mulholland Madness has become the Goofy Flight School and stuff. And so, but it was that philosophy of trying, let's get the characters back in there. So I said, we had made the suggestion, seems like a fun idea, but can we, put a Disney character overlay on this? Yes, and so then Kevin Kevin came up with this idea.
So it was Goofy about road trips, and what we did is we went around the country, same idea, but we followed Goofy on all his antics as he was taking a road trip across the country. And then we had an idea called Junkyard Jamboree, a ride through where you went through this with this old junk car into various junk part areas, and the cars came to life. It was like a magic hour at midnight, and it's like Johnny V8 and the Rev Tones, and they would play music and all that. And remember that name for later as well. And then we thought, well, maybe we should, you know, the movie came out and just became immensely popular, and so we thought maybe we'd add a little bit more Radiator Springs into it with Sally's Road Rally around town. And then it was in the final model at that time, we had Cruise Street, as you can see. It was like 50s and sock hops and all that, and even a little bit of down in the lower left-hand corner, we had Luigi's leaning tire ride kind of thing, and a car showroom, and Ornament Valley with Radiator Springs Racers in the background. And in the summer of 2007, John said, you know what, why? Because it just seemed like there was, you know, we had Herbie the Love Bug and some other kind of Disney cars, but really not a lot. So it was kind of a collision of worlds here. And he said, why not just make this, why not turn Carland into Carsland? Let's build Radiator Springs. And that's kind of where it all took off from there.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier about what Disneyland is. You go, it's a particular place in time. And what I felt like that California Adventure had a problem with, it was like trying to be too many things. I didn't know what era I was in, and I felt like that this was kind of the same thing in the sense of that maybe this was trying to be too many things, and instead let's just make it a place where you are transported. You are transported to Radiator Springs, and it's there, and it's alive, and then make it as real and detailed as possible. And so everybody, it was like the obvious thing. We said yes, and I remember even Bob was like so excited about that idea. His sons are so crazy about the cars and the Cars characters, and I think we all wanted to go there, because in the making of the movie, I was so, I kept saying, I just want, make every building, everything so appealing, you want to be there. And it has really inspired families all over the United States to travel up and down Route 66, and it's really enlivened the road with that same philosophy of wanting to be there. And so we said, let's build it as exact and detailed as we can get. So go back one, Roger, if you can. Yeah. So this became kind of the model where you could, right by the winery there, it's just the beginning, and it's a straight shot, just like in the movie, right up Route 66 to the courthouse there. And as you come in, you'll see that it's nearly identical to exactly what's in the movie. There's a couple of buildings that we had to work around, but they've been designed beautifully to fit into the environment. But it's exactly what's in the movie. In the right order. And so this was going to be a new land. It's not a new attraction, a new land. 3 new attractions and all the other stuff. And so we wanted to have food, because food, good road food on Route 66 is a really important place, and it's a part of Radiator Springs. One of the things that in the development of the movie, we took a look at things that cars need and things that humans need, and made them one and the same. And the obvious one is a gas station to a car is a restaurant to us, and so that's what we kind of merged together. And so Flo's VA Cafe was in the movie, but it basically was a gas station. It's the local town diner where everybody went, and it's where all the problems are discussed and solved, you know, like a good small town diner. And so it was a natural for us to make that into a restaurant. Cozy Cone Motel, of course, you can't stay in Cars Land, but we evolved that into, you know, some food service, and also Fillmore's. He made organic motor fuel, and so it becomes a place for drinks. And so it became a natural. Of course, the shops, the obvious one is the Radiator Springs Curios that Lizzie runs. And it's as wonderfully kitschy as ever. And then the Ramones, the paint shop, became one of the key signature stores in the place. And then of course, pause for applause. You bet, baby. I will just take a moment to say, as a child, this was my favorite ride at Disneyland. I dream about it, and I looked forward to riding it all the time. And I'll never forget, I was so little, I was too light for it, and my dad had to ride with me, and we kind of sat sort of in the middle, and everybody bumped into us and stuff, you know. But I'll never, ever, ever forget it. And the sound, I mean, those who remember it, there's a particular sound to it, and the feeling, oh my goodness, it was so special, and the way it moved. And I think this has been one of those phenomenally, it's that carrot that Imagineering has always had in front of them to try to figure this out again, because it failed. And so the amazing Imagineers came up with a engineering solution for it. And so we decided to make it Luigi's Flying Tires. And it is so awesome, and we have some pictures later you can see, but it is one of the most cool and impressive rides. So it's like a gigantic air hockey table that you get to ride on. It's the best way to put it, really. It's exactly the same philosophy. And this is us on the test in Imagineering. They built a big, test facility for it. And this was, this is just one fan, and it's 8 times this size, so it's a huge field that you get to ride on, and it also spins. And then we came up with this amazing idea, which is so much fun, of Mater's doing something in Mater's Junkyard. And so there's this awesome ride system that in a Bug's Land, it's the Ladybug Boogie, and it's this kind of figure-8 thing where it hands off, and in Disneyland Paris, they did a little Cars ride where you kind of go around in this where it hands off. And so we had the idea to don't ride in the things that in the object that's attached to the ride system, but you remember those old great whip rides that like Coney Island and Kennywood and Pittsburgh have? And so why don't we ride in the trailer? And so we had the idea that you're riding behind a baby tractor, and you're in the trailer, and he whips you around. And I think Roger has a little video of we had this test thing, and it literally it was in the parking lot of Imagineering. They painted the size of the circles that you'll go around. We just were towed by a real tractor, and they built this simple thing. But look at how fun this is. I'm not kidding you. This is one of the most fun rides.
Yeah,
go back and play it again. This is, honestly, it's one of the. It's just when you ride it, you look at it and go, "Oh yeah, this is fun." When you ride it, it is really fun. And Ladybug Boogie just goes in a figure-8, and so what they've done is they've doubled the size, so it's 4 rotating platforms that you get handed off, so you're going to be whipping all over this place, and it really has a sense that the baby tractors are just taking you through a crazy ride through Mater's Junkyard.
How many tractors, Kathy?
22. They're all out there. Talk a little bit about the music we're doing for it, because that's really fun.
Yeah, so we decided to make sure that Kevin came up with this great name, Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, and so we built this gigantic jukebox out of car parts, and it's hilarious. And we got Larry the Cable Guy doing the voice of Mater, and he just, it's so funny. It's almost like a sort of a square dance kind of thing.
Yeah,
And it's
big hoedown.
Big hoedown, and it's just hilarious.
Fun writing these original songs for Mater to be out there encouraging everybody, and the little tractors all going around.
And it's so full of energy and stuff, and it's really, really fun. And what's going to be exciting is the queue area. We were able to keep in the farm area. If you remember, there was these kind of sheds that people didn't really see. Well, we're actually saving those and using those as the shade for the line, the queue. And so it'll be all full of memorabilia. You know, every inch of Cars Land is being covered with stuff, because that's the way. And Mater's Junkyard, and so it's all memorabilia from all his tall tales. So Mater's tall tales. So you'll see, his bullfighting hat and posters, and so it's going to be fun. So you have lots to look at.